One thing I've noticed in the build-up to this Anthony Joshua-Wladimir Klitschko fight is that the majority of fans that I've encountered online are leaning very heavily either one way or the other. You've got the group who are adamant that Anthony Joshua is going to dominate Wladimir Klitschko, and you've got the other group who are adamant that Wladimir Klitschko is going to dominate Anthony Joshua. I've seen very few people in the middle, in that grey area where they're either not sure who's going to win or they believe it's going to be a very close competitive fight which might go down to the wire. There are very, very few people in that middle ground. Most people are leaning heavily one way or the other. The people who believe in Joshua just believe that he's too young, he's too fast, his reflexes are too good, he's too powerful for the old man Klitschko. And the people who are adamant that Klitschko's going to win believe that he's just too experienced, too skilled, too seasoned, his technique is too good, and that Joshua is too green, too inexperienced. That's what the Klitschko supporters, well, not necessarily supporters, but the people who believe Klitschko is going to win, that's where they're coming from. So when opinions are so polarized, naturally, I have to explore the middle ground. Could this fight go down to the wire and actually be very competitive all the way and result either in a late knockout or stoppage, or maybe a points decision either way, a close points decision for one of them, a split decision, who knows? Is that a possibility? Is that so far-fetched? I can envisage certain scenarios where that might happen. Or could it be a shootout where both guys are hurt and both guys maybe hit the deck and then the fight is over in 5 rounds, but it was anybody's fight up until the last big shot landed and ended it? Could it be a situation like that? I think these are things that people should consider. In terms of the fight going the distance, Joshua's never been the distance, but that don't mean he can't go the distance. If he's able to hurt Wladimir Klitschko, and if he's able to hold his own in terms of boxing in the middle of the ring with him, then I can envisage a scenario where it does go the distance. To me, that would be plausible, because if he hurts Klitschko and makes it difficult for Klitschko to land on him clean, you don't necessarily have to be on his back foot like Tyson Fury. He just has to intimidate Klitschko with whatever he's throwing back. If he's able to do that, then Klitschko might be sufficiently cautious, not really put enough pressure on to tire Anthony Joshua going to 12 rounds. And Joshua might not want to get too ambitious because he's not sure if he can go to 12 rounds in a championship fight. He's, questioning himself a little bit. And in a situation like that, you could end up with a stalemate where it goes the distance. It's a possibility. But for those of you who are picking Anthony Joshua and you're adamant that he'll win and dominate Klitschko, it's always good to look at the other side of the argument. So I recommend you guys go and watch Dwyer's latest video on this particular fight, because he makes what is, in my opinion, a compelling argument for Wladimir Klitschko to defeat Anthony Joshua in decisive, even dominant fashion. He makes a compelling case. So go and watch that video and let me know what you think about it. It may not change your views, but then again, it might. In a nutshell, I'm going to sum up some of the things that Dwyer talks about in the video. For example, he says that a lot of the great heavyweights that have come along have changed the game in terms of introducing a style of boxing which wasn't particularly popular at that time. For example, Muhammad Ali, when he came along in the 60s, no other big heavyweights were fighting like he was, with so much movement and speed and leaning back from punches, having his hands low. The other big heavyweights were not fighting like that. And I know Ali, by today's standards, will not be a big heavyweight, but back in the 60s, a 6'3", 210, 215 guy was a big heavyweight. So he changed the game because the other heavyweights around were just not accustomed to fighting somebody who presented them with that style, with all that type of movement and speed and reflexes. They just weren't used to it. It was so unorthodox. When Mike Tyson came along in the mid-80s, most heavyweights at that time were still trying to emulate Muhammad Ali or Larry Holmes to a lesser extent. Tyson came along with this classic Customado style, power shots all the way, this head movement, so on and so forth, this short little guy putting constant pressure on you. Again, he changed the game. The heavyweights around at the time were not used to that type of style. But if you look at Anthony Joshua, is his style a game changer? I mean, some people are going to say, look, his style don't need to be a game changer to beat Klitschko. And that's a fair argument, I think. Fair comment. But this is what The Wire is saying. He don't look at Joshua and see a guy who has a game-changing style. He doesn't look at Joshua and see a guy who has a style that Wladimir Klitschko hasn't seen before. In his view, Joshua's got nothing to shock Klitschko with stylistically. This is not like Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury showed Wladimir Klitschko something he'd never seen before. He'd never been in there with a guy who was 6'9", with longer arms than himself, who could box southpaw and orthodox, who was slick, who was defensively very good, who could move. He'd never encountered anything like that before in his professional career. There is nobody on Wladimir Klitschko's resume that even slightly resembles a Tyson Fury. So because Fury was so different to anything Klitschko had been in there with before, Klitschko didn't know what to do. Whereas with Joshua, okay, he hasn't been in with anyone with the exact combination of assets that Joshua has, but Joshua will feel far more familiar stylistically to Wladimir Klitschko than Tyson Fury did. That's the Wire's argument, and I think it's a strong argument. That doesn't necessarily mean Klitschko's going to win, but I can see where The Wire is coming from. So have a watch of The Wire's video, have a listen to his argument, see what you think. And for those of you who are adamant that Klitschko's going to win, who believe The Wire, it'd be good to go and listen to some other channels and some other opinions of people who are adamant that Joshua is going to do a job on Klitschko. I have made videos about, for example, Ricky Hatton. He believes Joshua's going to win. He thinks Klitschko's just too old, particularly after the layoff. Joshua's going to have the reflexes, the speed, so on and so forth. And I personally do believe, I've mentioned this before, I think Joshua's going to have a speed advantage over Klitschko, particularly when it comes to foot speed. Klitschko's hand speed is still pretty good for a guy of his size. And his foot speed is also pretty good, but I believe Joshua's going to have a foot speed advantage. He's an excellent athlete, Anthony Joshua, and I do believe he can move around the ring when he wants to better than most people give him credit for. I'm not saying he's good on the back foot, no. What I'm saying is he can move in and out of distance and in and out of range a lot quicker than people realize, I think, when he wants to fight that kind of fight. And that's the kind of fight he has to fight against Wladimir Klitschko. He has to stay outside of range. When he wants to punch, he'll take some quick steps forward, move into range, and engage Klitschko. And obviously Klitschko will be able to engage him when he's in that range. But that's where his youthful reflexes may be crucial, because he may be able to get his shots home on target before Klitschko gets his shots home on target with those quicker, more youthful reflexes. We'll see. It's a fascinating matchup, and there's not long to go now, so we ain't got to wait too long. Can't wait for the fight. I'm really on the fence. I'm not sure who's going to win. As I've said before, when you've got fans leaning heavily one way or the other, I have to explore the middle ground and wonder, could this fight actually go down to the wire? Could it be a points fight where two big punchers who are unsure of themselves for different reasons cancel each other out and it ends up going the distance? Where Joshua's unsure of himself because he's never been 12 rounds, and maybe Joshua hurts Klitschko and it makes Klitschko stay in his shell and cautious for the remainder of the 12 rounds. Could that happen? Could it be a shootout where both guys hit the deck and you're not sure who's going to win up until the final KO punch lands? You know, it's fascinating. I can't wait to find out, because the heavyweight landscape will be a lot clearer when this fight is over and done with. I hope anyway. Hope there's no controversial decisions or anything like that. But yeah, the heavyweight division should be a lot clearer, particularly if the result of the fight is decisive. Let me know how you feel about everything I talked about in this video. Check out Dwight's video. It's Hatman, I'm out.